when I was told I wasn't going to get the check I was supposed to get, I decided I wouldn't have somebody else control my money anymore. And what that taught me is a lot of people just build and build and build, and they don't know what their company's worth. This is why 97% of all businesses under 100 million fail every 10 years. I cover this in my book, but I was in Corvallis, Oregon, going to high school, and I got grounded my junior year because I was working at the night deposit as a dishwasher, and I was sneaking over to my girlfriend's and getting home late. So my dad grounded me, and they were going out of town, and we had a walnut orchard, and every year we needed to pick $5,000 worth of walnuts for my brothers and I to go to this little private Christian school. And when they were going out of town and grounded me and said I had to pick up the walnuts, I went to school the next day, and it was my first entrepreneur experience. I saw a note on the lockers from the seniors saying they're doing a senior fund drive trying to raise $1,000. And I thought to myself, if I could get them to come over and pick up the walnuts, give them the $1,000, I could go spend time with my girlfriend before my parents get back into town. Yeah, I was 17. So anyhow, I thought a couple might come out, but everyone came out. They brought their parents, their family. We picked the walnut orchard clean. I didn't have to do any of the things I hated doing. I ended up selling all the walnuts to their family members for more money. I made up a price because I didn't even know how to calculate. And that was like forever on. I'm like, why would I ever do anything by myself when I can get other people to do it for me? And so that's been my mindset. I was voted least likely to succeed coming out of high school. I was a 2.4 GPA, didn't go to college. And by 29, I was ringing the opening bell of the American Stock Exchange with a Warburg Pincus private equity backed roll-up strategy, buying hundreds of businesses and doing all that before I was 29 years old. The problem was I had to restart when I was 32 years old, 33, because they sold the business out from underneath me. And I was a little bitter and a little pissed, and I had some great mentors who really reshaped my thinking, gave me instruction on how to get my doing to follow my desires. And I just literally documented the whole journey of going from zero to $100 million net worth by building something that we are expanding on today, teaching other people how to do exactly what I did. The first business I started, so I was 26 years old. I moved from Oregon when I graduated high school to Atlanta, and I became an outside sales rep for a device manufacturer, and I outsold the sales reps around the country because I just outworked them. And then I got an opportunity to move to Minneapolis it was 1989, and I would have been like 21 years old, and my boss got fired. The director of U.S. sales got fired within a year of me being there. So they came to me and said, hey, run the sales team of 25 people, and while we look for the replacement. And I created a program that did $26 million in revenue that next year. And so they just never replaced my boss. And by the age of 24, 25, they made me director of U.S. sales. And so at 26, I was sitting at the conference room table with a bunch of 50, 60-year-old guys, and I had a commission plan that was going to pay me more than any of them were earning. And the owner said, I can't pay that to you because you're making more than any of my other executives. And that was my key indicator. It was time for me to move on and go do something different. And so that was the launch of my first company, Sonus. This is why my partner, Grant Cardone, Mr. 10X, my partnership and relationship with him is I experienced in a microcosm kind of what he talks about with the 10X rule. And I had some great mentors, and they said, hey, if you could build a business where your net worth is 25 million, you wouldn't have to work anymore. But if you got to 50 million, you'd have a pretty good life, and you could get a couple extra houses. At 75 million, you could get a jet. At 125 million, and this was all in the late 90s, the people that were coaching me and mentoring me. So I'd never forget when one of my mentors said, look, Warren Buffett at 27 years old was worth $10 million. 47 years old, he was worth $75 million. And at 53 years old, he was worth $350 million. And his point to me was, you're not going to become a multimillionaire overnight. It took Warren Buffett 20 years to get from 10 million to 75 million. And so I set those as my targets when I was 25, 26. And at 27, I was worth 10 million. And I had a public company, and I was on the American Stock Exchange by 28, 29 years old. And so I thought I arrived. The problem is my private equity group sold the company out from underneath me at 32, and I went back to zero. So I always remembered the next target was 75 million at 47 years old. And so I set that target, and I said, I'm going to build a business. I'm not going to let anybody else control me. I'm going to do it without using other people's money. I'm going to re-engineer what ended up being a decentralized ownership structure, first of its kind. And today now you have blockchain and decentralized stuff. And I went and created my own business model based on the experiences I had and the research I did. And I launched that business in 2005, and I was able to build it without raising any capital, without taking on any debt. And I built it with super high value in mind because I was was targeting $75 million in net worth. So I always reverse engineered the business to do that. And what that taught me is a lot of people just build and build and build, and they don't know what their company's worth. And then they sell it. I have friends that built $100 million companies and sold them for $30 million. So I knew what I needed to build. I knew what I needed to control for market share. And I did that. And then I sold my business in 2016 for 77 times EBITDA, 151 million. And I made my customers my shareholders, and I made my employees my shareholders, shared 35% of the economics with my employees and my customers. And it really was working so well when the world was melting down in 2008 to 2010. I was on the Inc. 500 every year. I was fastest growing company, Inc. Higher Power Award. I was Entrepreneur Year, twice nominated by Ernst & Young. And so my world was entirely different than the rest of the world. So I hired an engineering firm to engineer small businesses and to really understand, 97% of all businesses under 100 million fail every 10 years. So I wanted to understand that marketplace, which also happens to be a $14 trillion market. And I was like, if I could fix and solve a way for these businesses to grow and scale like I'm doing, I could actually create a business that's all I do is help them. And so that was my journey starting in 2009. And when I sold in 2016, I needed to integrate what I built for the company that bought me. And we grew them from 1 billion to 4.5 billion in 36 months by deploying these concepts into 8 countries. And then my confidence was pretty high about what I was going to do the rest of my life.